In this video, I'll discuss Q1 FY26 result of Bajaj Housing Finance and Sky Gold. So let's talk about Bajaj Housing Finance first. So in terms of the AUM, they grew their AUM by 24% in this quarter. And if we look at their trajectory of the AUM growth for last 1 year, in Q2 they were at 26%. In Q3, Q4 they came down towards like 25% of AUM growth, and now in this quarter they are at 24%. And in the last 1 year the management was guiding us for a 24 to 26% AUM growth. And if you look at the growth of Q2, they were at higher end of the guidance, but in Q1 they reached the lower end of the guidance, and the management is saying that the AUM growth was hampered because of the competitive intensity in the market and the moderation in real estate demand. So that is the thing, and they also lowered their guidance for FY26. They are now guiding us for a 21% to 23% kind of a AUM growth for FY26, but they are still guiding us for a 24% to 26% of AUM growth for medium term. Medium term means in like 3-4 year kind of a timeline. So that is the thing, and that is a really bad thing, because the AUM growth was coming down in the last 1 year, and now management also guiding us for a lower AUM growth. So that is not a thing I would like with a company, that the management is lowering their guidance, but that is the thing with Bajaj Housing Finance, because market always rewards who are growing at a fast pace and also increasing their growth rate. But with Bajaj Finance, that is the whole opposite which is going on. So that is the thing. In terms of the disbursement, they grew their disbursement by 22%, which is a good kind of growth in terms of the disbursement, and they were growing at 22% kind of a disbursement growth in last few quarters also. So that is the thing. In terms of the revenue, they grew their revenue by 18.5% in this quarter, and if we look at the revenue growth also, that is also coming down. In last 3 quarters they were at a revenue growth of I think 24%, kind of a 24% revenue growth they were doing for last 1 year, but now that also came down to 18%. So that is another negative thing. And why we have to see Bajaj Finance very closely, because they are trading at a high PB ratio, that they are trading at 5x PB ratio, which is like very high. Whereas if we look at India Shelter, if we look at Aptas value, they are trading at around 3.5 to 4x kind of a PB ratio. That is why the negative thing will look more negative, okay, because of the high valuation. That is the point. In terms of the ROE, they registered a ROE of 11.6%, which is flat for last 3 quarters. There is no improvement of ROE, and they are guiding us for a ROE of 11 to 12% only for FY26, and in the medium term they are guiding us for a 13 to 15% kind of a ROE. Okay, so that is the point. So if we look at ROE also, ROE, if we look any company, if we look at any company, and if we want to get a view of the company in a single metric, ROE is the go-to metric to see that where the ROE is going. But in terms of the ROE also, Bajaj Finance is not able to grow their ROE. So that is another negative point if I say. But yeah, their ROE is not going down, they are stable. So that is the thing. In terms of the GNPA and asset quality, their asset quality is completely stable, quarter on quarter, year on year. So, and if we look at Bajaj company also, Bajaj group company also, they are like very good in terms of their asset quality. But in this quarter, there was a negative thing that they took a provision of 41 crore, which is 4x compared to the last year's Q1. So that is a negative thing. That is why the PAT of this quarter was lower, because they took a extra 31 crore provision. The reason for the provision is not known to me. We can get some taste of it in the con call. So that is the thing. So, and the PAT, if I talk about the PAT, it grew by 21% in this quarter and was lowered because of the provision they took in their book. So that is the thing with the PAT. And in terms of the operating leverage, they are talking about they are guiding us for a 20 to 21% of OPEX ratio in FY26, which is like they are in the range of 21 to 22 kind of a range they were doing in the last 1 year. So in terms of the OPEX also, they are expecting they will not get any kind of operating leverage in next 1 year, but in the medium term they are expecting a good kind of operating leverage to kick in their business, because they are expecting a 14 to 15% of operating 14 to 15% of OPEX ratio in the medium term, which is now at 21%. Okay, so that is the thing, and that is a good thing that they are expecting a operating leverage in the future. So that is the thing. And if we look at their valuations, they are trading around 5x PB, which is like pretty high if we compare it to the companies like India Shelter, Actors Value, Home First Finance. Okay, so that is the point, because all of them are growing at, like India Shelter is growing at 35%, Home First Finance is growing at 31-32%. Okay, Actors Value is also growing at 25%, whereas Bajaj Finance is growing at 24% and also giving a guidance of 21 to 23 kind of a AUM growth in FY26. But if we look at their PB, I mean the India Shelter, Home First Finance, then Actors Value, they are trading around what, 3.5 to 4x kind of a PB ratio, whereas Bajaj Housing Finance is trading around 5x PB ratio, which is pretty high if we compare the growth, if we compare the valuation. So that is the thing with Bajaj Housing Finance. So I am not giving any kind of a buy and sell recommendation, but you have to understand that how the stock market works. Okay, you have to understand the logic of the stock market. Stock market always rewards who are growing at a high pace, like India Shelter, like Home First Finance. Okay, so that is the point with Bajaj Housing Finance. And let's talk about Sky Gold now. So in this quarter they grew their revenue by 56%. Okay, which is a very good kind of a growth in terms of the revenue, because they are giving a guidance of 52% growth in FY26 in terms of the revenue, and they are achieving that number in this quarter. They achieved the number in this quarter, and So that is a really good thing that they are holding their guidance. So that is the thing. And in terms of the PAT, they grew their PAT by 105% in this quarter, whereas their guidance was like 60-65% of PAT growth in FY26. But in terms of the PAT growth, they have done really good work in the PAT growth. In terms of the PAT margin, they grew their PAT margin by 91 bps year on year, and quarter on quarter also that grew by 25%. 25 bps. Okay. And another thing with revenue is they grew their revenue quarter on quarter also. That is another good thing, that if we look at their Q3 FY25 result, they done a revenue of 1000 crore, whereas in Q1 they made a revenue of 1100 crore, which is like 10% up from the Q3 number. And we all know that Q3 is the best quarter in the gold segment. So what they are doing, we can say Sky Gold is capturing the market share from other players. That is why they are able to grow their revenue quarter on quarter. And if we compare it to Q4 FY5 also, they grew their revenue in quarter on quarter basis also. So that is a really good thing, that they are capturing those market share from other players. So that is the thing. And in terms of the PAT margin, that I said that they grew their PAT margin by 91 bps, and quarter on quarter also they grew their PAT margin by 24 bps. And if we talk about their guidance in terms of the PAT margin, they were guiding us for a 4% PAT margin in FY26, whereas they already achieved kind of a 3.9% of PAT margin. So we can say they already achieved the number, and they just have to stay in that range of 3.94%, 4.1% for the whole year. So they are getting a good kind of a operating leverage, because if we see their revenue growth, their revenue grew by 55% in this quarter, whereas profit grew by 105%. So yeah, they are doing a good job in terms of the operating leverage also, in terms of the growth also. And in terms of their revenue from export, they are expecting a revenue of 25% from their export business, whereas in this quarter they done a revenue of 12% from the export business. So in terms of the export also, they are looking for a good kind of a growth, because one another thing which is good, if they can able to grow their export share, because revenue, business from export businesses are like cash and carry business for them. So it will help Sky Gold to maintain their working capital and also improve their working capital cycle. So that is another point we have to look at. If they can grow their export business at a high pace, they can improve their working capital cycle also in the next one and a half year. So that is a really good thing. And now, as of Q1 FY26, the revenue contribution of the export business is 12%, whereas they are looking for a 25% revenue contribution from export business by the end of FY27. So that is a really good kind of a growth they are expecting from the revenue from the export business. Okay, so that is a really good thing. And in terms of the client addition, they added Reliance Retail in this quarter. So it is a really good thing that they are acquiring clients every quarter. And if we look at their past also, they were continuously adding new clients, and that is why I also said that they are getting the market share from the other players. That is why they are able to grow quarter on quarter also. Whereas if we look at the retail companies like Kullan, Pin Gadgil, their quarter on quarter number is degrowing because of the seasonality obviously. But in Sky Gold, that is growing. So that is what Sky Gold is doing very well. In terms of their, if we talk about, so overall, if I talk about the overall result, I would say that it is a really good result in terms of if we talk about revenue, if we talk about PAT margin, all is really good, and the company is moving in a right direction. I can say it because they are also, so in the press release, the management also said that they are giving a guidance of 7,600 crore revenue in FY26, which is like they also gave in the last quarter also. So in terms of the revenue guidance also, like in the FY25, they increased their guidance several times, and then also they are doing the thing, they are achieving the guidance. So that is a really good thing with Sky Gold, and I think if they can replicate this kind of a growth in the future, like they will be a very big company in the Indian market. So that is the thing. In terms of the valuation, if we look at the valuations, they are trading around 30x PE, and whereas they are growing at 52% revenue growth, and in terms of the PAT also, they are growing at 100% for last several quarters. So in terms of the opportunity also, if we look at the valuation, if we look at the business also, so it is really good, and it is moving in a right direction, and moving in a right direction in a very quick pace. So that is the thing. And again, I will say that I am not giving any kind of buy and sell recommendation, but the thing is, you have to understand the market. That market always, again will say that market always reward who are growing at a high pace, and Sky Gold is like doing absolutely great in terms of the growth, in terms of the growth rate in all the parameters they are growing at a good rate. So that is the thing with Sky Gold and Bajaj Housing Finance. So that's for the video. Thanks for watching.